Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm ready, guys. Our team builder here for week 1 of NPA Season 4. The Minnesota Vikavolts are taking on the Detroit type Nulls and our good friend CrimsonCBAD. I hope you guys are excited for this matchup here in the first week of NPA Season 4. For those of you guys who don't know, the draft went down last week. I did a team breakdown on my channel. I'll link that in the description below, where I talk about my entire team, why I drafted what I drafted, and so on and so forth. I think we got some really cool Pokemon on this team, like Victini and Salamence and Mega Mawile, obviously, ALOLA, Ninetales, and many more. So please go check out that draft breakdown so you can kind of see the full team and be ready for the Vikavolts this season. For those of you guys who don't know, we actually won the championship last season on the back of things like Infernape, Necrozma, and Vikavolt itself. This year we are looking to repeat our title, hopefully, and it all starts right here, week 1 against the Detroit type Nulls and CrimsonCBAD. He's got a very good team. I'm going to talk about his team, I'll talk about my team, what I'm bringing, why I'm bringing it, and kind of the things I'm expecting him to bring in this matchup. Of course, hit that like button down below and definitely be sure to subscribe if you're new, and if you're not too familiar with the Draft League format, hopefully this video will give you a little bit of insight as to kind of what goes down. But in quick summary, we each draft a team of 11 Pokemon, and each week we face a different team. Knowing what 11 Pokemon each team has, you pick 6 of them that are supposed to kind of counter or appropriately battle the 6 Pokemon that you think your opponent's going to bring, but obviously they could bring things that you didn't expect. They could bring sets that are custom tailored to your Pokemon, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about his team. He's got Celesteela, which is his first overall pick. Celesteela is just an absolute monster, of course, being that steel flying type. It's just very difficult to take down. Beast Boost can steamroll you pretty quickly. It can run Autotomize. In this week, I think he probably brings a more defensive type set, maybe an Assault Vest type set, because of, I think he's going to need the coverage options. I think he wants Heavy Slam. I think he wants a Grass move for Seismitoad. I think he's going to want a Fire type move or Earthquake, one of the two. And then from there, I don't know, he may be able to fit Autotomize 3 attacks on this set. I'm not positive, but some stuff to note there. But I do think he's going to try to bring like Heavy Slam and like I mentioned, Fire or Ground type move, and then most likely a Grass type move makes the most sense. He's got the Gengar, which is very scary. Gengar got nerfed obviously in Generation 7 with losing Levitate, but in some ways it's actually just as good. It's a very powerful Pokemon with that crazy speed stat at 110. It hits really hard with Sludge Wave and Shadow Ball, and it can run things like Focus Blast. And in a league where you can run any Z Crystal, you know, Fightinium Z is obviously very scary from that thing, but he could try to bring a Choice Scarf set. He could try to bring a Substitute set, which I think is very likely considering my Mega Mawile. He could bring Will-O-Wisp, but otherwise I expect at least Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, maybe Hidden Power Ice, and that would be the situation where he would bring a Scarf set, is if he feels like he needs to be able to counter a Dragon Dancing Salamence. He's got the Uxie, which is going to be his primary, one of his main stealth rockers. It's kind of iffy whether I think he brings this week, but Uxie's just incredibly bulky on both sides. Can set Trick Room and stuff, but generally is just bulky, kind of pivot Pokemon with knockoff. Scrafty's kind of scary, dark and fighting type, has a huge weakness to Fairy, but has the ability to set up, can shake off status with, you know, with its ability Shed Skin, can get Moxie, can get Intimidate, so it can do a lot of different things, and it gets some good coverage options as well. Obviously, Dragon Dancing is very scary when it comes to Scrafty, but it is relatively slow, and it's not super duper bulky. It's relatively bulky, but its HP stat is a little bit low. He's got the Acelgor, which is incredibly blazingly fast. Obviously, can set spikes and just hit things pretty hard with Life Orb and stuff like that. I don't know if he's going to bring Acelgor. I think it's one of those Pokemon that it doesn't really make a lot of sense against my team, unless he brings like Bug Buzz, HP Ice. He could bring something like Water Shuriken to check for Victini, but generally, Acelgor I feel like is okay, but I don't think it's super great against my team, but its speed stat is really awesome. He's got the Piloswine, of course. Piloswine is a very bulky Pokemon, and that's really what it does. It sits there with its Eviolite, it sets Stealth Rocks. In this match, I do think he's going to bring it. I think Piloswine makes a lot of sense against me. Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Stealth Rock, and Ice Shard. Max defense, max HP to counter things like Ninetales. It kind of shuts down. It kind of shuts down, you know, Salamence, obviously, which is really important. It can take on a physically offensive Victini. It can Earthquake Mawile. So I really feel like Piloswine's a pretty straightforward bring for him. Mega Altaria is his Mega Evolution, just a huge threat, obviously. I'm actually really scared of a defensive Altaria with Dragon Dance, a defensive Mega Altaria that sets up something like Roost, potentially Dragon Dance, and then 2 attacking moves, whether it be Return and Earthquake or something like that. He does have a tough decision to make with his Altaria though, because he does need either a ground or a fire type move. Maybe both. So obviously the ground type move is great for Victini and things like and things like Mawile, but then Weezing walls it if he only runs 2 attacks. I don't think he's gonna have room for 3 attacks, and if he does have room for 3 attacks, I don't think that third move is a dragon type stab. I just really don't feel like he's got the room for it, and I don't really think it's that necessary. I think he'd be better off running like Roost or Dragon Dance, or maybe even Heal Bell if he goes the defensive route, but he is gonna have like tough move slot issues there, because again, Earthquake makes a lot of sense against me for things like Mawile and Victini. Fire Blast isn't as good. But if he brings Earthquake return, then Weezing kind of stops him, so I don't know. Araquanid, of course, Sticky Webs, always scary, hits really, really hard. I gotta be careful with Araquanid because while I do have Seismitoad with Water Absorb, Araquanid does get grass-type moves like Giga Drain and stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if he brings something like Sticky Web, Liquidation, Giga Drain, or even Scald, Giga Drain with a special attacking variant, so we have to be kind of careful there. He's got the Hitmonlee, which obviously has Unburden and Reckless and things like that. Hits really hard, especially if he can get that Unburden off and double its speed stat. Really difficult to take down, and it's just a hard-hitting fighting type. Zebstrika, a pretty fast Pokemon as well. You know, if he brings Zebstrika, he brings it with Hidden Power Grass, I think, or Hidden Power Ice. That's kind of the thing that he's got to decide, but T-Bolt, Volt Switch, HP Grass, something like that. And then Linoone is his last Pokemon, which is a huge threat because of the Gluttony ability. It can use Belly Drum and use one of those Super Berries and get its health all the way to full after Belly Drumming. And then can proceed to sweep a team with extreme speed and stuff like that. So in terms of what I think he's gonna bring, Celesteela, Gengar, Poliwhirl, Araquanid, and Mega Altaria, those 5 I feel pretty confident in saying he's gonna bring. He could leave one of them out, but I really feel like those 5 are very, very likely. And then the 6th slot is just a matter of what he thinks is gonna make the most sense. I could see Uxie, I could see Scrafty or Hitmonlee. I mean, I could really see any of the rest of the Pokemon there, but I'm pretty confident in seeing Celesteela, Gengar, Mega Altaria, Poliwhirl, and Araquanid. I think they make a lot of sense against my team. So, in fact, I do think a special Araquanid would make a lot of sense. Ice Beam, Scald, Giga Drain, Sticky Web. I feel like that would actually be pretty solid. But let's talk about our team, what we're bringing, and so on and so forth. So kicking things off, we got Tooth Fairy here, our Mega Mawile. Very, very good. This thing is incredible, man. Intimidate is really awesome. Adamant Nature. We got a good amount of speed to outspeed things like Celesteela and stuff, unless he runs a ton. He has to run a ton of speed on that thing. But otherwise, Iron Head, Play Roughs, Thunder Punch, and Sucker Punch wrecks his entire team. He doesn't have a dedicated safe switch in. Like, the only thing he can safely switch in is like Celesteela. There's a prediction game that has to go down, but like Iron Head bops the Altaria. He's the thing is he can hit me with one of his Pokemon, but nothing is gonna like really one-shot me and then be able to take the hit back. And if I can get this thing against, like, you know, things like Araquanid and stuff like that, I can hit really hard. Same with Poliwhirl. Even Poliwhirl does like 50% after Intimidate to us with Earthquake, but I pretty much either 1 or 2 shot him with Iron Head depending on his spread. So Mawile is just a huge, huge threat to his team and really can obliterate a lot of his Pokemon. It's obviously our first round pick and just super powerful. And its speed stat is a little bit frustrating, how slow it is, but we do have Sucker Punch. Hopefully we don't have to run into any crazy Sucker Punch games where he could Will-O-Wisp me while I Sucker Punch, or he could substitute on a Sucker Punch, something like that. Unfortunately, Mawile does not get Pursuit. I thought it did, and it doesn't. So anyway, moving on. Next Pokemon is going to be our Silvally Talos here. We are bringing a normal type Silvally. I decided not to use its ability this week because of Gengar. I was looking at my team and I'm really Gengar weak. Gengar is just a huge threat, so I really like Silvally in this, and it's especially defensive, kind of mixed defensive Silvally. A lot of HP, a good amount of special defense, good amount of defense, kind of like a mixed wall. Defog, Parting Shot, Iron Head, Thunder Wave. Had to bring Defog because of the Araquanid. Sticky Webs are obviously a huge threat. Got to be careful with those. Thunder Wave is really nice to be able to paralyze some of his threats, especially things like Gengar or Altaria or even Celesteela is really helpful. Iron Head hits things like Gengar, hits things like Poliwhirl, and it hits things like Altaria super effective. That was the main purpose there. But this thing's job is really to just Parting Shot out. I didn't want to run mono attacking normal because of Gengar, so because this is the primary switching to Gengar, so I'd rather have something at least hit it or at least Thunder Wave it. But I have to scout out to see if he's got Substitute because that would be very problematic for me. But generally, this thing's job is to just ensure that he does not get Sticky Webs up on the field permanently. Maybe spread some paralysis and hopefully get out of there with Parting Shot and give the rest of my team an opportunity to hit pretty hard. The next Pokemon we are bringing is one of my favorites, Victini, baby. V-Drive is back, and I'm so proud to say that. We are bringing a mixed offensive Victini. I originally was gonna bring like a Choice Bandit or a Life Orb, physically offensive with V-Create and stuff like that, but I realized Altaria and Poliwhirl can kind of take those hits pretty well if he brings like physically defensive Poliwhirl or physically defensive Altaria. So I'm bringing a mixed set, which I really like this set. U-Turn, Blue Flare, Bolt Strike, Dazzling Gleam, max special attack, enough speed for things like Hitmonlee, Dazzling Gleam obviously hits pretty hard, and then a good amount of attack to make our Bolt Strike better. So he has nothing that can take 2 hits from this thing. Altaria gets killed by 2 Dazzling Gleams. Blue Flare into Bolt Strike kills Araquanid. You know, 2 blue flares kills Celesteela. So really, Dazzling Gleam for Scrafty. He does not have a single thing in his team. 2 blue flares is going to beat Piloswine. He has nothing that can switch into this and take 2 hits, and that's really what makes Victini so strong. It's just such a hard-hitting Pokemon and really, really scary. He has some things that outspeed it, obviously. You know, with the Zebstrika and a Selgor and Gengar, but in terms of his defensive Pokemon, he doesn't have the best options for it. So Victini's job is really to break down those defensive Pokemon and really force some switches and really kind of start to weaken his team. I have to make sure I use Victini very intelligently this week, find the opportunities to get it in safely, and just click Blue Flare or click Bolt Strike or whatever it may be. Again, like I said, he doesn't really have the best switch-ins to it, so I need to make sure that I use Victini properly, and I need to find opportunities to get it in safely so I can use those moves. So I don't think it's going to be my lead at this point in time. I'm expecting Mawile to most likely be our lead, but we'll see what he has on the team preview. If he has something that kind of throws me off, then maybe I won't lead Mawile, but I feel like Mawile lead is pretty solid because it matches up really well against everything aside from like a Z Crystal user, so I think that's pretty solid. And then we got our Seismitoad Bubbles, of course, from the Extreme Randomizer. Is here. Bubbles is running a defensive set with Stealth Rock, Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Scald. It's kind of a mixed attacking set, but primarily used for Stealth Rock. Rock Slide is there for things like Araquanid, obviously, primarily, but Scald to spread status, Poison Jab for Altaria. Nothing too crazy there. Scald also for Piloswine, which I don't think is running Freeze Dry this week. So yeah, just a defensive set, and its primary job is I had to kind of bring this thing because of Araquanid. Its water absorbability allows me to take hits from Araquanid, and again, got to be careful for Giga Drain. I know it gets it. I know it's something that he could be bringing. You know, we are pretty bulky, so I think that we can probably take 1, but we do have to be very careful because if I predict wrong, you know, it's going to be detrimental to the team, but it does give me something that can switch into Liquidations or Scalds from that Araquanid, which is such a powerful Pokemon, so you got to be really careful there. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Smogmog here. We got our Weezing. Weezing bringing a physically defensive set, a little bit of speed on it. That speed is going to be for things like, you know, Piloswine and stuff, just to ensure that. But Sludge Bomb, Thunderbolt, Pain Split, and Haze. Haze is there for Altaria primarily, and also for Celesteela if he's got Automized Beast Boost, things like that. Thunderbolt for Celesteela, Sludge Bomb for Altaria. Otherwise, we're just going to be trying to hit everything as hard as we can. Maybe get some poison status around the squad, which would be nice. Haze also helps against Scrafty, Hitmonlee, things that could potentially try to get some stat boost. Keeps me from being set up fodder from Linoon, so that's important as well. And obviously, we float above the ground, which is really nice for sticky webs and stuff like that. Otherwise, this thing's primary job is, again, to take hits from Altaria, stop that thing from sweeping me, and also take some hits from Celesteela. We can really take a few hits from that thing as well, and generally just kind of be annoying to his team. He's got those 2 fighting types, and Piloswine isn't really going to be doing much to us because he can't Earthquake us, so a couple things to note there. But I thought Weezing was a pretty good fit. And then last but not least is going to be our Voltergeist here, our Rotom. Volt Switch, Shadow Ball, Will-O-Wisp, Discharge with a Choice Scarf. I wanted something on my team that was going to be faster than non-Scarf Gengar because it was such a huge threat. I also felt like Rotom here was actually pretty solid because it can outspeed Altaria after a Dragon Dance. It can outspeed Scrafty after a Dragon Dance, things like that, potentially burn them. I've got the Discharge there, which is really nice for Linoon. If he sets up a Belly Drum, he can't Extreme Speed me. You know, Volt Switch is really nice to spread around his team, especially since his only thing that he can stop that with is Piloswine, and he's got to be scared of a trick, so he might not be so willing to switch Piloswine into Rotom, considering that I could just trick him, and if he were to get tricked to Scarf, the Piloswine's usefulness is very much so reduced. And also this gives me something for Uxie, which could be a huge problem if I don't, you know, weaken it enough early game. So that's kind of the team there. Obviously, we left some pretty big pieces out, right? No Salamence, no Alola Ninetales being the primary ones. Alola Ninetales I felt was okay this match, and I wanted to bring it, but it was outsped by Gengar, which is a problem, and it can't do anything to Celesteela. I feel like Piloswine's a very good bring as well, and I just felt like we weren't strong enough to take down Piloswine. As much as I really did want to bring, you know, Ninetales because it doesn't have a defogger, it just didn't work for the team. You know, I think Altaria might get defogged, but nevertheless, there was just, as much as I wanted to, it may force him to bring Brick Break on a few Pokemon, Scrafty or Hitmonlee or something like that, but I really couldn't justify bringing it with him having the Gengar and the Celesteela. As much as I wanted to, I just felt like it wasn't the right fit. And same with Salamence. Salamence wasn't bad this week, but the problem with Salamence is for me to get through things like Altaria, I would have to run like Z Iron Tail or Corkscrew Crash, and like then I wasn't going to be able to take down Celesteela and stuff. So I think he's gonna prepare a lot for Salamence and Ninetales, and obviously the fact that we didn't bring it kind of works in our favor if he over prepares for those things. But just a couple things to note there. And then Sharpedo, same kind of issue. Like Sharpedo, I felt like could have been really good, but he could have priority on a couple different Pokemon. And while Sharpedo is good, like I didn't think it was good. It was gonna break enough of his team. Kecleon was a maybe bring, but same kind of deal. Trick Room was viable, but with Sticky Webs and all that other stuff, I was just too much to deal with. And then I didn't bring Virizion because Virizion can't get through a lot of his team, just being totally honest. So that's really the team. I feel like it's not the team I expected to bring week 1, you know, with leaving out some of our really key members, but I think they'll get action later in the season, obviously, in the next week or whatever it may be. But in this case, I just had to bring what I thought was going to make the most sense. So yeah, let's see what happens, man. This is going to be a tough one. This is a tough battle. He's got some really good threats, like Gengar, Altaria, Celesteela alone is really scary, and then you know, we're gonna have to make some good predictions, and it's gonna really come down to whether Victini can do what it needs to do and really break through his team, and making sure that Mawile doesn't go down to something stupid. Like if I just let it die to a Z move right off the bat, that's gonna be really, really detrimental. But thank you guys for watching. Match will be up tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Dan. I also go by aDrive. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Thanks so much for checking out my last video. If you like that one, you'll definitely like this one, and be sure to subscribe for more as I post Pokemon videos every single day.